them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This is our last show before Christmas Eve and Christmas. We will be off tomorrow and off Wednesday and back at it on Thursday, Pierre. As I was just saying to you today, it's Festivus, though. This is a holiday, Pierre. I know you don't celebrate, but my dad used to get a Festivus tree. It was that serious in the Murphy household. But we'll have our own sort of Festivus. We won't really celebrate that, but we've got a couple issues, I think, that we want to talk about in the NHL, Pierre. A lot of things over the weekend. Let's work backwards. Let's start with today. The New York Rangers played a matinee, as well as they played the New Jersey Devils. They lost 5-0. Winnipeg Jets, Toronto Maple Leafs are playing right now. Last I checked, it is 2-1 Winnipeg Jets in the third period. But let's go to that Rangers game. Pierre, I think it was yesterday. Yes, yesterday, because it was back-to-back. They lost 3-1 to Carolina, but they're in the first period. I'm watching and saying, starting to do a few things right. They're starting to come around. And then I went out, hit the supermarket. I get a text from you, and you're just like, here we go again. And I get back, and they lose 3-1. And then they come out, and they just, I don't know if they just set sail for Christmas vacation. They're already thinking about sugar plums and whatever you want. I have no idea, but that was a disgusting performance by the New York Rangers today, Pierre.
Well, the second period yesterday wasn't much better. You know, there's a lot going on here with the Rangers. Somebody at some point is going to have the courage to step up and say exactly what's going on, but nobody's had that yet. We talked about it when they put the Jacob Trouba stuff together last summer. Jimmy, you know, we can go show you the tape if you want. Mm-hmm. Breaks my heart because there are a lot of real good people there. There are a lot of good people on that coaching staff. There are a lot of good people in the scouting department there. There are a lot of real good people that work in the public relations department there. I'm telling you, Jimmy, I spent a lot of time around that building. There are a lot of real good people there. Yep. Something's gone off the rails there.
It really has.
This today, okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They played Friday night in Dallas, and they won the game. They didn't get back till 4 o'clock in the morning Saturday. They had all Saturday off. They played a game yesterday that started at 12:30 in the afternoon, and you're right. They got off to a great start. Jimmy VC, boom, like 15 seconds into the game. Right. Fastest goal in like 7 or 8 years in Rangers, lore. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you it started to go south right after that. Yeah. And, so that's a problem. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there saying they didn't have a lot of rest time because they got home Saturday 4 in the morning. I get it. But I don't want to hear people on TV telling me after one period that the Rangers are back and this is their team and they're great and they do this and they do that. And that's why I texted you. I'm like, oh boy, this guy's going to choke on it. Yep. Because some of the stuff that's being said is so wrong. Yeah. Just, my mother taught me a long time ago, if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. Yes. Don't say it. Exactly. Okay? Because now you're in a big pickle. Because you lost the game in the second period. They mailed it in yesterday in the second period, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. They mailed it in. I mean, even Kochetkov said, I don't believe I had any scoring chances against in the second period. Yeah. So you go to today. Here are their stat lines that matter. They had 12 shots in the game. They were 0 for 4 in the power play. They gave up 3 power play goals where the other team was 3 for 4. Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming. Yep. And the elephant in the room, no Chris Kreider. And why? Because he's a healthy scratch with no explanation. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get one in the post game. I haven't been watching the quotes coming out yet. I haven't seen anything really. Was scouring Twitter right after the game. Seeing if Molly Walker had anything. She put a tweet up of just a woman shutting her laptop as if she couldn't write anymore. She doesn't know what to write anymore. And she's putting in the white top. I don't know how to cover this team anymore. But so she's not, by the way, I'm going to stand up for Molly in this one. Yeah. She's not wrong. Like I said, I prefaced everything by saying there are a lot of people in that building that I know and I respect a ton. Mm-hmm. And I, when things are down in this league, nobody's throwing you a life jacket, Jimmy. Nobody is. So that's where your friends got to step up and, send you a nice tweet or not a tweet, a nice email or a text, just so you feel like, there are some positive things. It's not all doom and gloom. And so you try to do that because you respect people that you have worked hard in the league to get to where they are. Jimmy, I don't know when somebody's going to step up there. Somebody has to step up.
Yeah.
They have to. So here's what's going on with them. They play after Christmas, okay? And they head down to Florida. They're in Tampa first, and then they're in Florida. Okay. Do you think they're the favorite going into either one of those games?
No, not at all. Not at all. And speaking of being favorites, and a shout out to our good friends at Betway. We'll get to them later. Pierre, this is weird. You don't see this. And by the way, this is a rivalry game today, too. Let's not forget that. This is a Devils-Rangers rivalry.
Major rivalry.
You know, and like for them to just lay an egg like they did against their rivals, it makes it even worse. But so, Pierre, you know, I'm scouting this stuff for my picks all the time, and they are -2. The Devils are -200 favorites. When you see that, so that's basically like yesterday. Remember yesterday when I said to you, we were talking about the Patriots and Bills, and the Patriots like 14-point underdogs. That's the equivalent of. Like if you had taken the Bills money line yesterday, it was like -400. So I guess it's a little worse, but you get what I'm saying. Like you hardly ever see that in a rivalry game, even if one team stinks and the other team's worse. I mean, the other team's better. Usually they factor in that these guys are going to get up for this game regardless of the standings, right? We've seen that all the time. Like even, you know, most of the time when the Bruins and Canadians play, it's a good game for at least 2 periods, and they come in, both teams are fired up, or other rivalries, I don't know, Kings, Ducks, what have you, Leafs, Canadians, what have you. This just shows you now that Vegas is looking at the Rangers like they're a joke. They're not what we thought they were, and they're not going to be favorites many times for the rest of the season. And you're right. When they go down to Florida, they are clearly the underdog, Pierre. And the other thing, too, is that's a tough trip because you're going down. It's nice weather in the winter. It's still technically the holidays. And, you know, like,
so
that's a tough swing.
I just want to say one thing, though, because a lot of people watch. I'll never call a team a joke, ever. Guys have to work way too hard to get into this league, just so we're clear.
Okay.
You and I.
Yep.
Guys have to work way too hard to get in this league. They're not trying to lose on purpose.
No.
This is above the players.
Okay.
And I believe this is above the coaches.
So
this is roster mismanagement personified. Look at the defense they're putting on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me that defense is better now than the defense that ended last season?
No, it's not.
It's not. So whose fault is that?
It's the general manager. And the
Well,
scouts.
it's a management team. It's a management team. It's a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people will, and that's where I'm different than a lot of people because I've been in that position. I'm never throwing stones at one guy because it takes more than one guy to make it. He'll always get the credit when it works, but I also think when it works, there should be other people that get credit too. Just like when it doesn't work, not enough guys are exposed. And I did this exercise with Jimmy last week. I showed him about a player that went from one team to another team. And I said, there's no way that's a tie-in, Jimmy. Jimmy, don't say the name or anything else. But I showed you exactly why that deal went down and how it went down. And you were like, oh, my gosh, I never would have known that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's other people that are involved in a lot of these things that always find a way to stay in the shadows, whereas they should be standing up and saying, you know what? My GM didn't do that. That was my advice. I told the GM to do that.
Pierre, let's get to roster management in the immediate, though. Okay. And today, you're going into a big game. You're coming off a loss. Your team's still struggling. You're trying to right the ship. And you're going into a game against your arch rival across the river. And you think it's a great idea to healthy scratch Chris Kreider, who has basically been the heart and soul of this team since he got here, has been a loyal Ranger, gives his heart. You talk about how these players are trying. Hey, he may be struggling at times, but I haven't seen him let up. I haven't seen that in his game. I've seen him struggle, but I have not seen him quit. And then I don't know what message you think you're sending to your dressing room, especially after everything that just happened with Trouba, and especially after the thing that happened with the trade list going out publicly.
Yep.
At what point do you get, and look, you don't have to say it. I'm making it clear that I'm saying this. This is Jimmy Murphy saying this. At what point do you stop taking the approach of, from what I'm gathering, making an example of leaders in the dressing room? to get a message across or to jumpstart your team. At what point do you realize that's not working? Because it didn't work with the way you treated Trouba, who had a C on his jersey, and it's not working with the way you're treating Kreider, who has an A on his jersey. I just want to know, like, Pierre, have you ever been in a situation with a team, whether you're a coach or management, where a team was in a slump and those who made these decisions decided it would be a good example to single out a captain or an alternate captain?
I have, yeah, I have.
How'd it go over?
Well, it worked one time. We won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, okay.
It worked. It did. It worked
This
one
is why I
time.
asked you. This is why I asked.
No, it's a fair. No, it's fair. And then other times didn't work as well. So what I just want to say to you is, and we've talked. Jimmy and I talk every day, probably 3 or 4 times a day,
Nonstop.
and it's all hockey, and it's nothing else.
Yeah.
And all I want to say is, and Jimmy, you know where I'm coming from in this. If a general manager is not an expert on his own team, he needs to know more than anybody else in that building about his team. If he's not, you're going to see mistakes like this. You're fair to bring up the Kreider thing. They were wrong when they benched Capo Caco. Look at the storm that created around their group when they did that. Look at what happened when somebody internally, Jimmy, it wasn't Jimmy Murphy, it wasn't Pierre McGuire. Somebody internally leaked out all these guys are going to get traded out, whether it's Mika Zibanejad, whether it's Capo Caco, whether it's Chris Kreider. Somebody leaked that, Jimmy. It wasn't you and it wasn't me. It's somebody from their place that did that. Okay? I think everybody in hockey knows that now.
We do.
And we talked about it the day it happened.
And they're leaking to a specific reporter that will remain unnamed.
Yeah, but we're like, whoa, something's going wrong here. Like, this is way too inside. So that's another thing. But then look at Keandre Miller's hurt. Okay, I'll cede you that. Do you think Keandre would be the first person to tell you, hadn't been having a real good year.
No.
Hasn't been having a real good year.
Yeah,
all this stuff, like, look at all the stuff they did. Internally, they did it. You didn't do it. I didn't do it. The viewers didn't do it. They did it. And it's all backfired because somebody there is not an expert on their own team. They don't know enough about their team.
So let me ask you this. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that somebody is not Peter Laviolette, which I think we both believe it's not him. We believe this is above. Is Laviolette in the right if he was to go to this person that has been leaking or whoever's in charge, whether it's Drury, whether it's the assistant general manager, whether it's a group of people, is he stepping out of his realm as a coach to say, hey, guys, I don't think this approach is working. Like, we gotta come at it from a different angle here. I get what you're trying to do, but I just, like, look, the results are speaking for themselves. Can a coach do that? Or if a coach does that, is he going to probably be looking for a job soon too?
Well, a young guy couldn't, but Pete's got street cred. Stanley Cup champ in 06, 2010 finalist with Philadelphia, 2017 finalist with Nashville. Pete's got street cred, man. He's a good coach.
Right.
He's a really good coach. And I'll say this. I know a lot of people are going after Drury. I get it. He's at the top of the food chain. So here's my question. Who's making these decisions to take the players out of the lineup or to leak the stuff? At some point, it's got to come out.
Right.
Like, who's doing? Like, if I were Peter Laviolette, and they were telling me who to dress and not dress, or who to play in certain situations, I can tell you right now that wouldn't work with an established coach, and he's an established coach. Yeah. So I don't know where all that stuff's. I just don't know. I'm trying to give you an honest answer. Well, I'm not trying. I am giving you an honest answer.
Here's this is, again, I'm speaking my opinion. I want to make that clear. I'm not stating a report. I'm not creating facts. I'm just giving my opinion based on me following the situation since it began. I think it was last Friday or Thursday. I'd have to go back and look it up. They had a real light, fun practice
in Dallas. In Dallas on Thursday.
It was Thursday, right? And the coaches are taking part in a shootout. They're having fun. Laviolette scored on Shesterkin. He does a little goal celebration. That's exactly the type of stuff you think is going to help. And voila, they go out and they win that game. So my question is, okay, if soft isn't the word I'm looking for, I guess light. If the light approach worked there, why did all of a sudden whoever is making these decisions pull a 180 and go back to this, let's make an example out of somebody? I don't get that because it looks like
no,
you
I don't know.
found
I
a way to
don't.
get these guys, you know?
I don't know. But again, so what do you think the response was last night when they saw Capo Caco score in Colorado?
Gosh,
And he almost had two. He almost had two last night.
I
Now I
know.
know he was a dash player in the game, but like
The whole Seattle team.
like Seattle's struggling.
Yeah.
That's another
Another
episode.
story. Yeah.
Another episode we'll have to
Too
get
many
to.
teams struggling right now, man. I feel bad for them. But also one thing we can't forget, and I see a lot of people bringing it up in the chat room too, and I want to get to this, Pierre. While we're on the Rangers too, and we're in agreement on this. If you think that 8 games is too much for what Matt Rempe did the other night in Dallas, I think you need a reality check. I think you need to evolve into the current world that we live in, or at least the hockey world we live in here. We've evolved from that. You know, today, Pierre, is actually the anniversary of the famous game where Mike Milbury hit the fan with his shoe and the Bruins went into the stands, right? So I guess I'll put that into this conversation. We've evolved from that kind of mayhem, that kind of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here, chaos, okay? And we know a lot about safety. We know a lot about head injuries now. For people, and I've seen plenty, and some in the media, to come out and say that there is some kind of bias against Matt Rempe, and that's why he got 8 games. I'm sorry, but I think he should have gotten more. I think he's lucky that he got 8 games, to be honest. I would have started at 10 and maybe gone up from there.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I would not have. I think 8's. So you got to remember a couple things here. One, the thing that got him in the most trouble, he's a repeat offender. He's a repeat offender in the last 18 months. So that's what gets him into significant trouble. That's why it's more than 6 games. That's number one. And number two, George Peros, who makes a lot of these decisions with the help of Colin Campbell and probably Mike Murphy and Chris King, they care about the players because they were all players. Yeah. They do. But they care about both sides of the equation. They care about the player that's going to lose the money, the guy that does it, and they care about the guy that gets hurt. And in this case, it's Miro Heiskanen. It's a tough deal. Like, the one thing I'd say is I think Rempe could be a force. Like, he and Edstrom on the up front could be a force. Let's just say Carrick's, let's just say for the sake of argument, they want to have a quote unquote identity line. So you got Edstrom, you got Rempe, and you got, let's just say, Sam Carrick.
Okay.
Let's just say you go that way.
Oh, yeah.
If those guys play within the rules and go whistle, and if there's extracurriculars afterwards, then the other team decided there'll be extracurriculars, and then they can go to work. But Rempe doesn't have to do what he did, and that's why I didn't like the play. He knows that's Miro Heiskanen because it's number 4 right in his face, and he's 6'8", and he gets him from behind. And not only does he get him, he jumps up and he brings a forearm.
Why are you jumping up when you're that big?
So there's so many things in there. Now I get why he was suspended. So I have no problem with the 8 game. Like, that part of it, no problem.
Okay.
Where I feel bad for the kid, and nobody talks about this, they're wiring him up. I've been there too. There's certain guys like Jay Coffey, you wire them up. There's certain, you're trying to get your team going. So you get that. But I feel bad because that's a lot of paychecks for that kid.
Yeah.
That it is. And I'm glad, and I want to clarify this too. Miro Heiskanen, if he's not the best defenseman in the NHL, he's one of the top 5.
Yep.
He's one of the top 5. He's a great player, and he's a tough kid because he came back after that didn't play, and he doesn't fake it. Jimmy, I was with that kid for 2.5 months in the bubble in Edmonton. That kid is tough as nails. He is tough as nails.
One of the most underrated players in the NHL.
100%. So if you're in love, if you love Brian Leetch as a New York Ranger, or you love Scotty Niedermayer as an Anaheim Duck or a New Jersey Devil, more as a Devil than a Duck, obviously, even though he won the Cup in Anaheim. That's what Miro Heiskanen is. He's like a combo of those guys.
Yeah.
That's what he is. And like, think about if you're a Ranger. Think about for one second if you're a Ranger. Okay? Imagine if somebody, my guy, let's say it's my guy, Jay Caulfield, would have done that to Brian Leetch. How would you have felt? How would you have felt?
Yeah.
And let's just say you're a Devils fan. And let's say we went in there and, I don't know, for the sake, Troy Loney, another one of our players. We wired Troy up and said, Troy, you're going to get 27 from New Jersey, and they punish him. How would you feel if you were a Devils fan? You'd be ticked off.
Yeah.
How do you think Dallas fans feel?
I know. And Pierre, the other thing too that I don't get is fans saying, "Well, what's he supposed to do when he's so big and he's so tall?" I'm sorry,
Don't jump in the air.
well, wait, but I should have taken note. I apologize if this person's watching. I saw a tweet in response to that, and I should have taken the note of the handle to give him credit. He said the fan said, "Well, I'm sorry. I'm a Bruins fan, and I just watched Zdeno Chara play as a Boston Bruin, from 2007-08 season to whenever he retired. Was it 20 until he left to the Islanders? And he's a pretty big guy. He didn't need to do that. He hit a lot of guys fairly and cleanly. So explain to me, why does Rempe need to do that if he's so big? Why can't he hit like Chara did?" And I was like, you know what? That's a great point. That's a really valid point by that fan.
Big, first of all, Big Z is a different type of player. I think you would agree.
Yes.
And so this kid's just cutting his teeth. But I remember instances when Chara was young. Go watch some tape when he played in Prince George, when he was a junior player. Go watch some tape from when he played in Lexington, Kentucky, for the Thoroughblades. When the Islanders, that was their farm team. I mean, it wasn't all as refined as everybody thinks. Okay, just to be fair.
But he learned.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So there's a learning process all these guys go through. It's like what I used to talk to you about with Arbor Jacki.
Yep.
The coach is going to be, I told you this a million times, the coach is going to be mad at him until he starts making better decisions. No bad penalties, no bad pinches, clearing the crease without taking penalties, no tripping penalties behind the hash marks, all this stuff. And he's doing it. Arbor Jacki is doing it. He's playing great because he's learning. And I think, obviously, they sent Rempe to the American League to learn. He just hasn't refined himself yet.
Pierre, there's a player you always bring up, former Ranger, that you loved his style. You loved the way he played. Jeff Bukaboom.
Yep.
What's he doing these days? I'm just curious.
Well, he had serious concussion issues. He was coaching in Hartford. He was working in the American Hockey League as an assistant. Okay. What he's doing now, I don't know. I don't know if he's around their group or not, but I had so much respect from either when he was an Edmonton Oiler or when he was a New York Ranger. That guy played hard. He was fearless. He was courageous. He was a great partner for Brian Leetch. He was a great partner for Brian. Would be the first person to tell you that. I have always had so much respect for Jeff, and we played a lot of big games against the Rangers back in the day. I always thought he was one of those really underrated guys.
You always talk about mentoring. We've mentioned Ray Bork working with Charlie McAvoy a lot.
Yep.
And that's a great idea. I don't know if the Rangers have tried it with Bukaboom and him or somebody else, but this kid right now, Rempe, really seems like he needs a personal mentor. Somebody it doesn't always have to be on the ice. It can just be talk. Like when you and I call and I ask you advice, just he needs somebody to guide him right now.
Jimmy, it's easy because it's New York. Mark Messier would be elite to do that. He's an Alberta guy, played in the Western Hockey League. He'd be good. Adam Graves would be outstanding. Gravy was such a good Ranger. But I'll throw one at you that a lot of people are saying, come on, no way. I've gotten to know him really well. Ty Domi would be very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Because he had to change. Because if he didn't, he wasn't going to last in the league. I don't care how tough he was. He just wasn't going to. And I've always, I do a thing with Ty. He comes to Mario's thing every spring, and he's really good at it. Ty's really good. He'd be another guy. But Rangers have a plethora of people they can turn to help a player like that in terms of, hey, look, Michael Pekka's on their staff.
That's a good guy right there.
Michael Pekka's outstanding. They got enough guys to help him.
Yeah.
He just needs to learn.
Yep.
And by the way, he's not the reason why the Rangers are where they are.
No, not at all. Not at all. And in fact, I would argue, and don't twist my words here, please, fans. I'm not condoning at all what he did, but I would argue that up until that point, if you watch that game, his presence was having a positive effect. That made it go the other way.
So I'm really happy you said that. It started out real well.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey's still a game of intimidation.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. That it's still but you just can't.
He has a role. He wants to take it. There's a role for him.
There's a role for him. There absolutely is. Somebody brought up the name Colton Orr. I heard somebody, and I apologize for not knowing because you watch and you listen to so much stuff. So I apologize to whomever brought that name up. I respect that because Colton Orr was a tough guy. And you know what the best part about Colton Orr was? And Colton, I hope you're watching because he knew I was a huge fan of his when I was doing the games.
I loved covering him.
He was a player that a coach could put on in the last minute of a period or the last minute of a game, and the coach knew the board battle would get won. The puck wasn't going to get from the back end to the net because Colton was going to block it. If there was a one-on-one battle that had to be won deep in the corner, that guy was going to win it. Like, he wasn't going to turn the puck over coming out of his own zone. Colton Orr was a guy who was a tough guy, but you could trust him late in the game. And those players matter.
Yeah.
Those players matter.
They do. What about Sean Thornton? Another example.
Sean's a perfect example.
Yep.
Perfect example.
Yeah. So there we go. Pierre, not to – well, we did say it's Festivus, so I apologize for continuing the negative stories here. But one thing we do want to talk about, and you and I were talking about throughout the weekend, is at what point is something going to happen in Detroit? I mean, those two games against Montreal, and credit to Montreal. I'm not taking anything away from what Montreal did.
Yep.
I love the way they played. But what is going on there, especially that second game on home ice after you just lost them?
And they had a 1-0 lead. And Joe Veleno.
Center second game.
Yeah, and no, it's okay. And Joe Veleno scored to start the game, and he's a Montreal kid, and he had goals in back-to-back games against his hometown team. And Joe's kind of been stuck on the third and fourth line. Oh, man, where do you want to start? I brought it up before the game started. The special teams quotient is a 10-point spread. The special teams quotient is the addition of the percentage of penalty kill and power play, put it together. The Canadiens were at 105 going into the first game. The Detroit Red Wings are at like 94.3. Okay, so not even close. If you want to be a playoff team, you got to be close to 105 or better. That's usually where it breaks down. So Detroit, if you go look at, there were 6 periods of hockey that were played. Montreal won 3 of the 6, Jimmy. They won 3 of the 6. The other 3 were ties. So Montreal dominated. It wasn't like close. Montreal dominated 6 periods of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to tell me that all of a sudden everything's right in Detroit? Like, that breaks my heart. They haven't been in a playoff game in like 9 years. That's an important franchise in the league for TV numbers. It's a huge franchise for the league.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they got to do something. It's almost like they're just waiting for it to happen on its own there, Pierre, but it's not. And something's wrong there too. And I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus. I think it's a collective effort, but something is wrong there too. And I would imagine, imagine the league offices right now. You're looking at all your original 6 franchises.
Well, there's a few things. You worry about where New York is. You worry about where Montreal is going to be fine.
Yeah,
I think Boston. Long term. But you got to be concerned about Chicago.
Yep.
You got to be concerned about Detroit.
Yep.
Austin Matthews isn't there, but I think Toronto's going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. The Montreal Canadiens, I think, have this unbelievable program in place.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, I think they could be as good or better than a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at it, you got to be concerned. But the one thing, it's amazing how this all started after we talked about it. The Canadian dollar.
Oh, yeah.
I got a call from an agent today.
Mm-hmm.
A very prominent agent. And he's like, hasn't even been brought up, but I heard it, and you guys are right.
Yep. Credit to you, Pierre. That's not us. That's not
no,
us.
It's a team. We're a team. Just never forget that. But I'm just telling you, it's getting worse. The Canadian dollar is getting worse. It's not getting better.
No, I agree. But I look at Detroit, Pierre, and I can't pinpoint. Like, when I watch their games, and there's nothing. There's no consistent thread of what's going wrong that stands out to me, because to me it's like, okay, it'll be one thing for 2 games and the next 3 games it's another. There's a lot of things happening there that aren't right, and I just wonder when Stevie Y is going to take a move here.
They're not good enough on defense, especially without Simon Edvinsson, so that's a bit of a problem. I think that some of their wingers aren't playing as well as they need to play. DeBrincat goes hot and cold. You need him to be more hot. Patty's always Patty Kane still can play. Like, he's still got game. Larkin is kind of like DeBrincat. and Dylan is a really important player there.
Mhm.
I just think, again, there's a lack of consistency, and I think a lot of it starts just the defense, and here's what I learned a long time ago in the NHL. You can't play for moral victories. And so when I hear sound bites, well, our first period was great. We got off to a good start, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
It's a 60-minute game.
You lost.
It's a 60-minute game. And then, we had them where we wanted them on Friday night, except Patrick Laine scored a power play goal. What about the shorthanded goal by Jake Evans?
Mhm.
Did that not count in the first period?
By the way, Jake Evans, cha-ching.
Yeah,
He's
good
valuable.
year to be in a contract year.
Yep.
He's, you know what, that kid, I remember watching him at Notre Dame playing for Jeff Jackson there.
Mm-hmm.
You could see he was going to play in the NHL. You just weren't sure how long because he wasn't gigantic, but he could really skate and he could check. So you just don't know. He's a boutique hire. Are people going to love him, or are they just going to dispose of him in 2 or 3 years?
Yep.
He's a guy you don't dispose.
No, exactly.
They've created this role for him, and he's chosen to accept it, which is a penalty killer, face-off guy. And now that's leading to other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy for that kid.
Pierre, this reminds me of last year. It's like Nick Dowd Part 2, where everyone's like, oh, they can trade him at the deadline and get a great pick, blah, blah, blah. But the Capitals like, or maybe we just keep him because he fits in perfectly with what we're trying to do.
How about our point?
Why not keep Evans?
He's our pony. Nick Dowd's our pony. We'll take Jake Evans too this year, too, if you want.
I mean,
that's why we do that. That's why the show is called the eye test, because the numbers don't matter. Well, for Evans it does, because he plays more shorthanded minutes than anybody else. Yeah. His face-off percentages are through the roof. But it's not about offense with him. Just like with Nick, it's not about offense. Those guys help you win other ways.
Yeah,
they really do. So Dowd and Evans are our guys. We're taking those guys.
I'm with you on that. All right, listen, we see a lot of questions lining up here, so let's get over there. But before we do, I want to tell you again, we're going to remind everybody, we're really excited about some more remotes we're going to be doing. The eye test will be on the road for pretty much the majority of February. The first and second Monday of February will be in Boston at West End Johnny's for the Bean Pot. We'll be broadcasting there live pregame. We don't have the time set. Probably we'll have that set by the new year. So I'll keep you posted on that. And then the following week, the third week of February, we're up in Montreal, up near where you are right now and near where our Sick Podcast crew is based. We will be at McLean's Public House on Upper Peel there, 1420 Peel. Yeah. Not the one on Lower. So remember that. There's two of them now. There's a brand new one is McLean's Public House. We're at the brand new one. We'll be broadcasting before each game in Montreal for the Four Nations face-off, and then we'll go back down to Boston for the semis and the final there. And then in March, we're looking to hopefully go back to West End Johnny's and do the Hockey East playoffs as well. So we are on the road, and if you know some bars out there and you got something going on in your city hockey-wise, let us know. We'd love to take the eye test out to your neck of the woods. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter, hit us up here in the chat room. Really looking forward to those trips. All right, Pierre, let's get to our sponsor, Betway, right now. They're still running that special. I actually, to be honest, I don't even know when it expires, but we're going to take it as long as they run it. Bet the beauties with Betway and join the action. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Again, now this is for newcomers or for new signees. Scan the QR code right in front of you or go to the link on the website in the details section to create an account and redeem the welcome offer. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. Remember, you must be 18. You must play responsibly. I've got 2 bets today, so let's go to the sick pick of the day.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, I'm going to ride the wave with the Montreal Canadiens going into Columbus. Short underdogs here. They're at plus 114 last I checked. I like them. And I also am going to look at the Bruins Capitals game. And I'm going to go with the Bruins on this one. I like what I'm seeing from them lately. I know they didn't play their best game against Buffalo, but they found a way to do it. I like home teams on that last game. Even though I went with the Canadiens on the road, but I do like the Bruins a lot. I went back, looked at their record. They usually win this game right before Christmas, before they take that quick break. So give me the Bruins on the money line, minus 130 over the Washington Capitals. All right, let's get to the Q&A. What do we got? Alex Evanowski. What's up, Alex? Happy holidays. I'm starting to believe in Ottawa. Well, let's see what the results are on Allmark. For those who don't know, he did leave the game early and did not come back last night, but it looks like he's going to be okay. Out of all the two other Atlantic rebuilding teams, I think this might be their year to break through. Allmark has helped so much. Are you buying them? If Allmark is healthy, I am buying them.
I agree 100%. I love the style of play that Travis Green has implemented. They're going straight ahead. They're not crisscrossing in the neutral zone, playing fancy Dan hockey. Their speed is really apparent because of the way they're pushing the pace. So the answer is yes, I'm buying. I've been buying for a long time. I think their depth at center is much better. Good to see Josh Norris doing so well and not have any shoulder issues. Timmy Stützle's a superstar player. Shane Pinto's perfect in the 3-hole. And you can go Zach Ostapchuk, you can go Ridley Gregg, whomever you choose on the fourth line. They've got good role players. Noah Gregor's done a real good job going over there. Nick Cousin's done a good job there. And no, I am buying. 100% I am buying.
Yep. And I look back on the back end, Pierre, and you pointed this out last week. Shabbat's playing some good hockey too.
The best Tommy's ever played in the league.
Yep.
He's not cheating the game for points. He's playing to play stable hockey. Jake Sanderson's playing real well. I still think the one thing, and Nick Jensen's been a good ad, by the way. Their management team deserves credit on Nick Jensen. They're still short on the right side because they don't have Zub back yet. And they don't have a lot of internal right side guys. Max Gannett's probably their best guy. He's down in Belleville. So they need a little more on the right side, but there's a lot to like there. There's a lot to like.
Even when they get Zub back, they're still going to be looking for more help there on the right.
Yeah, but they're going the right way. Like I'm telling you, they're definitely. But there's been a lot of heavy lifting gone on there. It's been a painful process for the fans there. Real painful.
Sure. All right, next question. Bert, question. Thoughts on the Pospisil hits on Bedard and Nazareth? Well, that's Nazar. And the Blackhawks' response. Donato jumping Pospisil after he refused to fight Foligno. I loved what Donato did there. Ryan Donato's not known for that, but good on him to being a good teammate there. I liked it. I thought the one on I think it was Nazar. I didn't like that one. The other one was kind of borderline, but I definitely did not like the one on Nazar.
No, I didn't like the one on Nazar either. But that being said, it's the way it is. I mean, I like Donato's response. That's what I'm going to say.
He's having a great year, by the way.
Ryan Donato? Yeah. Having a phenomenal year. Guess what he needs next year? Guess what he needs next year?
Contract.
Yeah. You know who his agent is? Matt Cater.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to be a good summer for Matt Cater. He had a hell of a Christmas a couple of years ago. He's going to have a heck of a summer.
Though I think he's waiting to get to the Christmas break today after what happened. But next question.
No, so Jimmy, you can't go inside baseball and not tell everybody. He's Chris Kreider's agent.
Chris Kreider's agent. And I feel for him. He's probably having a crazy day right now. All right, next question. Jason Logan, question. With the Rangers benching Kreider, do you think he's on the trading block? Jason, we know he is. He has been. And do you think the coach is on a short leash? Happy holidays to you both and your family. Same to you, Jay, and same to your family. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that whole thing. I think we said enough earlier. But if I'm a contender, I'd definitely be interested. I think he's going to now, if he does get dealt, after what's gone on, he's going to have an even bigger chip on his shoulder. So I think it's a good guy to acquire.
I just want to make sure I can figure this out. So Chris Drury is on Team USA's staff to pick the team that's going to play in the Four Nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's a GM of the Rangers. I just want to make sure I get that. Okay.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting dynamic when they get to the Four Nations. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, would you sign Evans if you're Montreal and trade him next year at maybe higher value? No, if I sign him, I'm looking at signing him maybe 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, that's what what might happen in this negotiation. I'm not saying everyone's different. What might happen is he might take less money for more term. Mm-hmm. Not a player like that, term matters a lot. It's like the Nick Dowd deal, the same term matters more because you're not going to have the numbers to get huge salaries. So you sacrifice maybe 100,000 in this year or a signing, whatever. Every negotiation different, but in this case, you take more years for a little less dough. Now everybody's different, but those players usually they want more years, not less years.
Agreed. All right, next question. Aaron St. Pierre, what's up, Aaron? Rangers 12 shots today, lost 5-0. Legit question. Who's worse, the Rangers 4-13 in their last 17 or the Sabres? It's a great question. I don't know. Can we say they're even in their own ways? I don't know. That's tough.
So
I would say Rangers just get to expectations.
Yes, I'm going to say the most disappointing have been the New York Rangers. Not that long ago, and we can go maybe a month ago, the Buffalo Sabres ran the West. They ran California, San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. Okay. Yep. They ran the West. They were coming back. They were in a playoff spot or knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, they had measured up to expectation. What's happened after that is just the palm trees and the tax thing didn't help.
No.
Didn't help.
Not the best comment. All right, next question. Randy Workman, we all know it's the coach that usually gets the axe. When do the players have to take responsibility? Randy, I'm with you. I wish that happened more. I don't know. I think it's just the way, unfortunately, the cycle of life goes in the NHL.
No, mature teams, they feel guilty. They do. Guys that say, you know what, this guy really cared about me. He actually told me the truth. He wanted to prolong my career. It's usually the teams that have younger guys who think their careers are going to last forever, though. That's where you have a bit of an issue.
Yep.
But the mature teams, unless the coach just, went haywire, which can happen too because of the mental and physical stress, sometimes that happens too. But I would say if you're talking about Rangers, and I don't know if that's who they're talking about, you tell me, outside of Quenneville right now and Bowman, who's not coming back to coach, like who else is out there that's, name brand recognition to go on to Wall Street or to Broadway? Like better than Laviolette. Peter's a really good coach. It's not like he forgot how to coach.
No. This isn't on him. This is
okay. I'm glad you said that because I don't like because everybody. Oh, you're always stepping up for the coach. I'll step up for the GMs too. Like if a coach is doing a bad job, I'm going to say, hey, look, Jimmy, tells at the start of the year, we're watching the game together. I said, what are they doing? Seattle. I was watching. I was like, this guy's lost like every faceoff. What's he out there with the goalie pulled? They can't do that. And then boom, the guy don't say who the kid is. He loses a faceoff clean, and the other team scores in the empty net. I said, see, I told you. Like you can't. That's where I'm just like, what? And we didn't kill them, but we said, hey, you can't do that. You just can't do that.
Yep. All right, next question. Kathleen, wonder if you heard what Line said about Hudson. Yes, did. That was great. That he's the best power play quarterback that he's ever played with, and he's played with a lot. That was high praise, especially coming from a veteran like Line. Kathleen, good of you to bring that up. That power play right now is lethal, absolutely lethal. And Pierre, I don't know if you don't mind me bringing up our conversation when I had.
No,
I said,
no, go ahead.
Well, I asked Pierre the other day. I don't know if it was yesterday or Saturday. I said, is it going to get too predictable? Because obviously it's as Kathleen described right now. And he said, no. They've got this guy named Cole Caulfield who can help them switch things up. And Pierre, I don't know if you want to elaborate on,
No, it doesn't work well on this kind of a forum. If I had a dry erase board, I could show.
All I will say is Pierre's not worried about that.
No,
they have ways to adjust if other teams figure it out. So
the one thing I'd say is think about it. So when he was in Winnipeg, talking about Patrick Laine, Josh Morrissey was just breaking through.
Yeah,
he's a heck of a player.
He was, yeah.
No, but he is a heck of a player. Then you go down to Columbus, and you got this guy Werenski, who's right now to me, he's as good as there is right now in the league.
Hell of a year.
I can't wait for the Four Nations just so we can spend time watching that guy practice and play. He's that good, Jimmy. Like he's really good. So for him to put Lane in there, that's high praise because he knows. Patrick knows. And Jimmy, we talked about this a lot. It drove me nuts for how many? The first 15 or 17 games before they put him on the first. It was going crazy.
Yeah. It wasn't until we got to Ireland, I don't think. I think that's when it happened.
Yeah, remember poor Jimmy? I kept hitting him on the plane there. Like, come on, let's get this guy on the power play.
All right. Next question. Simone LeBlanc. I don't know if I pronounced your name right. Can the Winnipeg Jets be a serious contender this year? Yes, I think they are.
Mais oui, Simon, certainement. Of course.
There we
I
go.
think so. I think they need a little more depth on defense. The Lowry line with Nino Niederreiter and Mason Appleton, they're the identity line for that team. And Coach Arneal's using them fantastically well.
Mhm.
I think they legit. Now the problem is, who do you get in the first round? That's part of the problem. But can they compete? Can they compete for the cup as long as they stay healthy? The answer is yes.
Yep.
Yes, they can.
By the way, that's a final in Toronto. The Winnipeg Jets win 5-2. All right, next question.
Just one thing, though, before we get to Alex, one thing before we get there, and this is important. Without Austin Matthews, Toronto's a different team. Even when he's only playing at 80%, he still makes him a different team.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how hurt he is. I saw some things that Mike Johnson put up on the TSN broadcast today in terms of his pace, his release, the velocity on his release, all that stuff. They're all really good numbers. And he was comparing to when he was healthy and when he's not healthy. So I thought it was really good TV. Like, it was well done. It was great presentation by Mike, because it does show you, it does show you the reality that this guy's hurt. There's no question he's hurt.
Did you see the clip too, Pierre? It was the first time they had caught Matthews grimacing. Like, really?
Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah.
So our best to him. I hope he can get better soon. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, Matejchuk is making his NHL debut tonight. What can we expect for him moving forward? He was killing it in the AHL.
Yeah, he was. A lot of good stuff, I think. It's exciting. I mean, I can't wait to watch that tonight, actually. So I'll be watching and working with our friend Tony Marinero on the Canadiens post-game show after the game. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, no, I expect a lot of good things. A lot of good things.
All right, next question. Steven Greidenaus. I hope I pronounced that right. Montreal has had a very favorable schedule recently, and they have done very well. With January coming up, how do you think reporters in the fan base will react when reality hits?
Well, we know what we're going to do, Steven. I'll tell you that right now. Like, we're going to call it the way it is, but the way it is right now is they're in a rebuild. And Laval just had 2 games in the weekend, and they did real well with that, and I'm excited. It's all about the infrastructure. I talked to a Canadian scout that was on the road this past 10-day period, and they're really thrilled with a lot of their prospects, which we've always talked about in a positive way. I'm really encouraged by the direction team. I hope people will remember that. It's a long term. They're not that far away.
No, they're not.
I can't wait for people to see, like, next fall is when I think it amps up for them.
Yeah. I mean, I know as a fan, you don't want to hear it if you're a Habs fan, right? I get it. Okay, so I'm prefacing this. But if I'm watching those games when they start to play the iron of the league, I'm looking more at performance than wins and losses. And I know that sounds crazy. I know winning's the goal of the game, but if they're doing the right things, if they're doing the right things and they're hanging in there and they're not, and I know Pierre said there's no moral victories. I agree, but I am looking at individuals. How are they maturing? How are they developing each game? That's the way I look at the Montreal Canadiens. That's the way I look at some other teams that are, rising and rebuilding. I don't always look at the W's and the L's. So.
No, that's a great way to look at it. I admire that. The one big question, and I'm not asking it, I'm just telling you what I've been asked. Everybody's this thing about Mike Matheson. Is he staying or going? Why is there a rush to move Mike?
Another guy.
I don't. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. Like, I think Mike's got more value with the team now than if you trade him away.
Pierre, you would know better than me because you're covering the team more closely. But I'm not in that dressing room. But just from afar, I don't know. To me, it looks like he's being a pretty good mentor to Lane Hudson. Like, it looks like
very good. But that's how Mike is. Mike's just a solid. Talk to anybody that played with him at Boston College. Talk to anybody that played with him in Dubuque in the USHL. Talk to anybody that played on the Laxing Louis Lions with him. Mike Matheson is a home run. He's an amazing person, and he's an elite skater.
Yeah,
and he's a good player. I think he's been asked to do too much, and that's when you see the foibles of his game. But He's a really good player.
You know what I love too, Pierre? Remember that game when he was just coughing up the puck?
Boston, he was said, it's the worst game I played. It was in Boston. They got
I love
shot.
that he came out and said that. And you know what?
Yeah.
He came back with 2 strong games right after.
Did. You're right on. He came back and played great, but he wore it. He wore it, which is what you want from a leader. He wore it. Yep.
All right, next question. Steve Chimalesh. These names today. I hope I'm not murdering anyone's names. I apologize. Happy holidays to you and your families, Jimmy and Pierre. Same to you, Steve. Since this is the last show before the start of the World Juniors, any previews or who to watch? That's a great point, Steve. We will be on Boxing Day during the afternoon games. We will be on, so we'll be able to look at the day games and look ahead to the night games. Any previews or who to watch, predictions? I like USA and Canada in the final. Who wins? I don't know. I can't wait to watch Ryan Leonard in this tournament. After interviewing him, and I can't wait to watch what he does in this tournament.
So everybody's talking about the start of the tournament that they should. I don't think the tournament starts for most of these teams until December 31st, when Canada and the USA will play in what should be a legendary New Year's Eve game. The last time the tournament was in Ottawa, it was New Year's Eve, and Canada was down 3-0, and a guy named John Tavares took the game over and did a number on Ryan McDonough and a bunch of other American defensemen. And Pat Quinn did a number as a coach. He had so much more experience in the American staff at the time. And he and Guy Boucher and Dave Cameron, who's the coach now of this team, was an assistant then. And that's when that tournament started. And I think this tournament, that's because everybody's going to say they're on top of the food chain or they're on top of the food chain. And we're going to find out on December 31st. So my prediction is I'm not betting against Ryan Leonard. I'm sorry. I'm not betting against Ryan Leonard. And
I know he's watching because he already asked a question, but I think we told you, Pierre, that's when I met our good friend Jason Logan. We met at Mesa 14 on Bishop Street, across from McKibben's, and watched that game together. And it was a hell of a game. I'll never forget. It was a great night. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Canadian money versus U.S. dollar is a Canadian franchise of a U.S. brand. It hurts. Do Canadian teams have reserves? I assume they do. Pierre, you would know this better than me.
So some teams hedge on the dollar and some don't. And some teams hedge way in advance. Others do it in the summer going in, just evaluating where their expenses are going to be. But it doesn't matter. So let's just use round numbers. Right now, if you have an $80 million payroll, I'm just using round numbers, Jimmy. Your salary cap, if you're Canadian right now, a Canadian-based team is $120 million Canadian. That's what it costs you. It's $40 million more. They take in Canadian, they pay out US. Just telling you, that's what it is.
I know.
But have you seen one article about this?
Well, I haven't seen article. I'm starting to see blurbs. Blurbs are coming. But yeah, you've been on this from the get-go, Pierre. All right, next question. Randy Workman, what's up, Randy? If you're the Rangers, how fast do you do a shake-up like a month ago?
They
Randy?
tried. They traded. Jacob Trouba was the problem, right? That's what they told you. Didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know what to say about them anymore. I'm sorry.
I remember hearing once we get Trouba gone and everything will get better. And you saw what the players said. The players didn't agree with that.
Players didn't agree. And here's the other thing. Okay, fine. Let's say they were right, which they weren't, but let's say they were right that he was the atmosphere environment type problem. Okay, but you still got to replace what he brought on the ice. And as Pierre said to start the show today, there's a lot of holes in that defense now. A lot.
You can't tell me that defense now is better than the defense at the end of the season last year against Florida. You can't. It's not.
No way. And there were problems in that series too. I remember us talking about it, Pierre.
Yes.
We were looking at that blue line as maybe their weak spot. All right, next question. Simone LeBlanc, questions for you guys. And by the way, he said I got the pronunciation right. Do you know if Sam Bennett and the Florida Panthers have begun contract extension talks? I've only seen probably what you've seen. I've seen some rumors that they have, but it hasn't really progressed that much. So I don't have a factual answer for you right now. I apologize.
Usually when you have players that are at a certain level and you know their importance with the roster, you have cursory talks with the representatives, and Doesn't mean anything's formal, but you make sure that you're kind of talking from the same level. Some guys overestimate their clients, and some teams underestimate the players that they have. So you kind of have to make sure you're all kind of at the same level when you're talking about it.
All right, next question. Mitch Balin, should Montreal trade for Yanni Gourde with a guy like Doc going the other way? They need another left center since Dvorak is more than likely out at the end of the year. Mitch, one thing I would say, patience with Doc. I know it's hard to say that. I know it's hard to have right now. I think he comes around. There's too much talent there. But of course, you can always use another one. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, so that's a good answer from Jimmy. The only question I would have is the size. And Yanni plays bigger than his size, but he's not a big guy. And so for the Canadians, the size quotient is something they have to pay attention to. They do. Cole's not big. Nick's not a giant. He's big enough. He's thick enough, but he's not huge. Newhook's not a gigantic guy. Start doing the math. Like Lane Hudson's not a gigantic guy. Like they don't have a lot of gigantic guys.
And in line with what you're saying, Pierre, you'd say this too, is if you look at the way they've been drafting over the last 2 years or so, they're bringing in bigger guys. So they know they're making a concerted effort to get bigger, Pierre.
I'm very comfortable saying this. Like Nick Bobrov's really good at what he does. He came over from the Rangers. He's a Russian guy, but he's an amateur scout, and he's really good at his job. Jeff Gorton earned his stripes as an amateur scout, and he's really good at his job. And when you're an agent, which Ken Hughes has always been, one of the things you have to do to get good clients, you have to go scout and find good young players.
As if you're working with a team, yeah.
So what I see is Canadians have amended how they evaluate, which is good. It's not bad. It's good.
Yep. All right. Next question. Brad K, with all the NHL and NCAA coverage you both do, is there time to follow the PWHL? Mm-hmm. Former Devils center Bobby Carpenter's daughter, Alex, is playing at the Rock for the New York Sirens. By the way, Brad, we ran into her brother and Bobby's son, Bobo, over in Belfast.
Bobo over in Belfast. He plays for the Belfast Giants. Yeah. Well, here's what I know is I've watched Alex play a lot of years at Boston College, where she played, and also in the Olympics and also in the World Championships for the Americans. She's an amazing talent. She has her father's hockey sense, and her dad was an amazingly smart player. And by the way, Bobby was a really good coach when he was done playing. Yeah. Really good. And she can dominate the puck, and she's a high-end player. Alex is a really high-end player.
Yep, we do, and we try to do our best to watch that as well. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's actually been a thing. I don't know if you've been aware of it, Pierre, but the Boston team is not doing well with attendance, and so there was starting to be this sort of, story. Some writers were trying to see this is why this league's never going to do well. Well, no. They have their rink out in Worcester, which is an hour without traffic. But if you're going to play a game on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, and you're asking fans to get out there in rush hour, it's taking them like 2 hours. They're not getting there to like the second period. That's the problem. It's not that the PWHL is doing bad or they're not on their way to being a great league. It's where the location of that rink is. So I wanted to throw that out there just because that's becoming a big story here in Boston.
Yeah, well, guess what? That happened to the Arizona Coyotes too, but the NHL still exists, and they moved to Utah. They had their rink in the wrong place.
Yeah. I think they need to put the rink closer to Boston, and they'll find a way. All right, next question. Brandon Parker, question. With Monty getting both starts Friday, Saturday, now the start tonight, is this the end for Caden and the Habs, or are they just waiting for the freeze to lift? Thanks as always, guys. Happy holidays to you both. Same to you, Brandon. I noticed a lot of teams actually giving goalies back-to-back starts on like 2 days in a row. I just wonder, Pierre, if it was just because you're going into a little break here and they got time to rest. That's why.
I thought he'd play all 3 games going in. I did. I thought he'd play all 3 going in, and I think he deserves to play all 3 going in. It's not like he's fatigued.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a good season, but I don't think it's the end yet.
No, it has not. That has nothing to do with it. The biggest thing to me is when you look at it with him, Montembeault, I'm talking about, like, you played in your own time zone. It's an hour and 10-minute flight. It's not far from Detroit to Montreal, maybe an hour and 15. The Canadians don't have a tough time clearing customs when they come home. So, no, it's not a big deal.
Okay. All right. Next question. I think this is the last one. Ron LaRoque. what is one of your favorite Xmas memories, Jimmy and Pierre? Well, my first one with my daughter, her first Christmas, and then anyone I've spent with her. Unfortunately, not with her this year. She's in North Carolina with her mom. But I would say it's funny. I was just talking about this, Pierre, and I don't know how long you had been based in Boston, but in 2015, we actually had at my mom's house, we had a barbecue outside because it was 72 degrees down. It was great. I was in shorts. I loved it. And actually my sister, who'd been living in San Diego at the time, was home with her now husband. And they were like, wow, this is just like San Diego. And so that was a fun one. That was a good one.
So I've had so many because my late father loved Christmas. And we used to go on our property here. We used to go cut our own tree down and drag it through the woods on a toboggan and set it up. And that was awesome. That was a big deal for us when we were kids. I haven't had a chance just because of my job, whether I was coaching or broadcasting, to be around for Christmas. So usually by this time I'm already out the door. And now the kids are older, so it's a little different. But here's one for you. When I was coaching in Hartford, we played there the 23rd of December in the old building in Ottawa, where the 67s play now, down at Lansdowne Park. And I remember watching the warm-up in the corner of the rink. And I was just having a cup of black coffee watching the warm-up. And there was a little boy probably sitting to my left with his father. I'm going to say 10, 11 years old, Jimmy, maybe 12. And it was clearly his first time ever in an NHL game.
That's awesome.
And just watching him interact with his dad was awesome. It was priceless. So I went to my trainer. I was like, I need a puck. So he gave me a puck with the logo. And I just walked up to dad. I said, here, this is for your son. And then I walked downstairs, but I watched when the dad gave the puck to the boy.
Oh, that's great.
And it was all like, it made me all excited to go coach. Anyways, sorry, Rick Bonus. We beat your team again. We won 9 straight. There you go.
Stuff. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
I love it. And you know what else too? I love every Christmas because I love the day after New World Juniors is starting. So
well, so you mentioned Europe. It starts usually on the 25th.
That's right. I remember watching a USA game a couple years back at my sister's.
It starts on the 25th over in Europe, but over here it's still Christmas, Boxing Day.
Right.
Let's get after
Boxing Day. It's great. All right, I think that's it. It is, and we appreciate. I see all your wonderful wishes for the holidays. Same from Pierre and I. Pierre,
yep, please. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy everything. Be safe, please. Please safe. This is just a start for the eye test. We're so fortunate and grateful for all of your support. Really are.
And I saw somebody else too there. I don't know if they can go back, but they said they see it that we're gonna grow and grow. We appreciate it. And I want to say to you guys out there, we don't grow without you. So we appreciate the support you're giving us. And Pierre, Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
I'll be talking to Melanie. Why?
But I want to say it to you.
Work tonight? Are you taking the night off?
I'm not taking the night off.
Okay, because Jimmy, you can tell everybody. Like I make sure that Jimmy's working. I'm always sending him notes.
I am. I'm not taking the night off. I got my dinner prepped and everything, so I'm right there on that couch from the 7 o'clock start.
Good. Well, thank you for an amazing year. You've been a great partner. We're going to just keep it rolling into 2025.
Yeah.
And we're good to go on 26.
We are 26 and the 27th, and then we'll hit the weekend. And we're going to do the same thing, by the way. Just the next week for New Year's Eve, we'll be off New Year's Eve day, and we'll be off on New Year's Day, and we'll come back on the Thursday. So. Rock and roll.
Well, you're not getting off. You're watching games, but I get it. Don't worry.
Off this.
Jimmy knows there's different ways of doing business.
Come on. I'll keep watching.
I'm busting your chops.
And you know what, Pierre? I want to say a big Merry Christmas and happy holidays to our crew up in Montreal for all they do. They work so hard behind the scenes, and we're really proud to be part of this Sick Podcast family. We love them. And I wish, I'll tell you right now, I'm jealous because I know how the Italians do it. I was married to an Italian. I got some Italian in me. Those Christmas Eve seafood meals. And I know they're not going to be messing around. I would love to be up there for that. So enjoy your Christmas Eve Italian meal. And Merry Christmas to everyone out there.
Well done.
We will talk to you on Thursday. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.